Come along with me as I test the Apple Watch Series 10 as a bike computer during my big road trip from Vancouver to Calgary on my Honda Shadow 750. I woke up super early at 5:30 a.m. because I knew I had a full day of riding ahead of me, and was greeted, of course, by rain. I was not very happy that it was so wet out, but because of my schedule for the trip, I kind of had to leave that day. So I opened my Mac and checked weather, which has a live map feature, which shows you precipitation for the next 12 hours. By checking this map, I could see that if I just stuck it out and rode for a couple of hours, I should be able to outrun the rain as I head inland. Today, I'll be riding over 800 kilometers, which is about 500 miles, to my parents' house near Cranbrook. I've done this trip by car twice, but this will be my first time doing it on a bike, so I'm very excited. First things first, there's a couple of settings I need to change on the Apple Watch to make it somewhat suitable for this use case. The first setting is under passcode. Then you need to turn wrist detection off. This makes it so the watch stays on and unlocked when it's attached to the motorcycle, as opposed to your wrist. Secondly, you need to change the watch's wake duration, and this is found under Settings, Display and Brightness, Wake Duration. There are only two options here, 15 seconds, which is the default, and 70 seconds. I use this accessory from Garmin called the Forerunner Motorcycle Mount Kit, which is designed to hold any kind of watch to your bike's handlebars. Once you put the watch there, I can just simply open maps, type in any destination, and it does turn-by-turn directions, just like on an iPhone. So now I'm ready to begin my trip. So I got on the road at about 6 o'clock this morning, and it's 6:45. I've been riding about 45 minutes in the rain. It's been a little bit brutal so far. I'm going about 80 kilometers an hour on this highway, and the water's just hitting me. I'm doing okay, and when I look at my weather map, the rain should stop after about another hour or hour and a half of riding. So I'm gonna keep going, because after all, it's just water. As long as I'm riding safely and carefully, I will be okay and I can outrun this rain. I'm gonna fill up with gas here and keep going. I'll check in later. After I finally make it out of the rain, I stopped at a campground to change and freshen up. So I made it to this place called Manning Park, and the rain has finally stopped. I got changed, and oh my god, that was brutal. All my clothes were completely soaked, and the roads weren't that bad, but boy am I glad that's over. If you use an Apple Watch, normally it auto locks when it detects you took it off your wrist. But since I'm in wrist off mode, you need to use this lock button, which appears in Control Center. As you can see, the watch still has over 80% battery life left. Not too bad so far, as I'm about 3 hours into my trip. So this watch has been working pretty good as a bike computer so far. And how it works is after you put your destination into the Maps app. I'm just using Apple Maps. You open Maps on the watch and it gives you turn-by-turn directions in this view, or you can swipe up to go to the, it shows you an actual map on here, and you can zoom in and out. It's pretty amazing. This entire highway, the Highway 3, has a strong reputation with motorcyclists because of its incredible scenic views. Now that I'm finally out of the rain, I'm actually beginning to really enjoy myself. My energy's coming back, and now my mind is wandering. And I'm realizing you might be wondering how I, as a new rider, suddenly decided to get into motorcycles in the first place. Last summer, I was visiting home for Shovel Fest, which is an annual show and shine focused on restored Harley-Davidson shovel heads. My dad and brothers all ride, and we'd planned that weekend so we could go as a family. My younger brother, Ryan, let me ride with him. Motorcycles have always been a part of our family's culture. My dad had a Harley when we were kids, and he'd sometimes give us rides. Since we lived in the country, we also had a Honda dirt bike that my brothers and I would ride around. But this was the first time I'd ever ridden in a group with my dad and my brothers as adults. And then I realized this wasn't just about motorcycles. This is about connection, about belonging. And for the first time, I understood if I wanted to be part of this, I had to meet my other family members where they were at. I had to get my own bike. So when I got home to Vancouver, I booked lessons, I studied, and I got my license. I found my first bike, a 2002 Honda Shadow 750 Spirit. A lot of people recommend Shadows for new riders because they're pretty affordable, they're low maintenance, and they're pretty easy to ride because they're balanced really well. And plus they look fantastic in my opinion. And every time I get on, I'm reminded of that first ride with my family. By now, I've been riding all day, and I've gone over 800 kilometers through the Rocky Mountains. I've seen lakes and valleys, forests and orchards, bridges and mountaintops. I've now reached my destination, and I realize I probably should have split this trip into 2 days and stayed overnight somewhere, but I'm glad I accomplished this challenge of doing it in 1 day. It was an adventure, and I'll never forget this day. The next day, I decided to just hang out at home and rest. Tomorrow, I will continue the rest of the trip to Calgary. Like I mentioned earlier, my dad is very prolific in his motorcycle interests. He restores old Harley-Davidsons, so the garage at home is just a sea of incredible motorcycles. He helped me wash my motorcycle using the pressure washer. It was pretty dirty from the day before. And he even made me a custom part from scratch. It's a special screw used to hold the windshield in place. My parents live in such an interesting area. It's a small town along the highway. There's train tracks across the street and a creek out back. I love it here. It's one of my favorite places in the world. After a good night's sleep, it was time to get back on the road toward Calgary. My dad joined me for the first stretch. My first time riding with him, actually. A couple hours later, we rolled into town and met up with Ryan for lunch. Ryan's my brother, who I mentioned earlier. After that, I continued on my own. I passed through Crowsnest Pass, a valley known for a rock slide in 1903. And home to Crowsnest Lake. Before long, the mountains were behind me and the prairies opened up. And I was in Alberta. I kept wishing I had a camera mounted to my bike so I could show you more of the ride. A lot of this footage was taken using a neck mount or a neck mounted phone holder I got. This whole video was shot using my iPhone actually. I'm still pretty new at making videos, so I want to stay focused on just filming and posting and not get distracted by fancy gear yet. But I do think in the future, if I do want to make more motorcycle videos, I want to get something I can easily mount to the bike and so I can get more creative shots. By the end of the day, I rolled into Calgary finally. And now it's time for Stampede. This was my first ever time going to Calgary Stampede. I was so surprised because why did no one tell me that Stampede is literally just a bunch of music festivals around the city? It was crazy, but a lot of fun. So I think now I want to just talk about what I loved about the Apple Watch and what I didn't love about the Apple Watch as a bike computer. I think one of the biggest things I love is that it just feels really cool using the Apple Watch in this way. It feels futuristic, but low-key at the same time. It's also small and unnoticeable. It won't stick out to people who see you as you're riding your bike like they would see if you were using a phone. It won't distract from the aesthetic of your bike at all. It's just so small. Turn-by-turn directions work pretty well. It's amazing being able to see exactly where and when your next turn is going to be, though this has some downsides as well, which we'll get into next. But it's also just nice to have the time there on your handlebars. You really want to have that glanceable because in the city, you actually frequently need to know the current time as you're riding. There's certain left turns you can only take between certain times or for parking stuff. The other thing is battery life was really awesome as well. Mind you, I have the newest Apple Watch, the Series 10, but on my 15-hour trip, I got home with 25% battery life. This thing will last all day, even with the always-on screen turned on. And as for the downsides, the wrist down timeouts are almost a deal breaker for me. This means that after 70 seconds, the watch will dim and the screen will stop showing live updates for things like turn-by-turn directions. Apple, please introduce a third option for never timing out the watch so it will stay active. The iPhone can do this. I want the watch to be able to do this too. The other big downside is that it was a bit challenging to mount the watch to the bike. The Garmin product that I have moved around a lot. You might have to come up with a clever solution for your bike if you want to try this on your own. The mounting solution I use requires the watch to have the band on it, but imagine if I could get a 3D printed case that just held the watch so I wouldn't have to have the band at all. That would look, I think, more sleek and more integrated. I want the watch to feel less watchy and more like it's part of the motorcycle itself. So, would I use the Apple Watch as a bike computer again? Yeah. It's not perfect, but it's small and discreet, and it works well enough for long rides. If Apple ever lets us keep the screen on all the time, it'll be even better.